Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be setting up and planning for August 2026. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, it is already time to set up for August. I can't believe we're already in 2027 planner season, and I'm starting to think about what my 2027 lineup is going to look like. And I figured I might talk a little bit about that in my intro here. I will have some separate videos coming this month with some of that. I already have my first 2027 book, which I'm just going to give you a quick peek. This is the A5 Magnet Weekly Horizontal from Aura Estelle. It's my first Aura Estelle ever, and I'm going to be using this for my craft planner instead of this one in 2027. I'm also going to be continuing with a daily journal and some sort of functional planner, definitely a take a note. I'm considering downsizing to the A6 for the take a note and eliminating having a separate everyday carry and just doing one planner so that I would only have the 3 main planners. Of course, I'm still gonna have, my 5-year journal and my other ongoing books, but as far as setup, that might make things a little bit easier for me, but that's for a future video. Today, we're gonna be setting up for August in my 4 regular monthly books. So in my daily journal, I'm gonna be setting up my monthly goals, and I'm also going to be working on my vision board. I'm going to set up my everyday carry weekly pages, update my calendar, set up my calendar and trackers in my take a note, and set up my monthly calendar and trackers in my craft planner. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start with my functional planning this month. I will add timestamps in the description box below if you want to jump to just one portion of the video. Otherwise, go ahead and grab a beverage and let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, we're gonna dive into my functional planning here. So I'm gonna start with my monthly calendars. And if you are new here, I plan usually a full month in advance. So this I'm planning for August, which means I'm gonna also be setting up September because that way I have space to have things planned out in advance. And I'm just looking at what I have on my calendar so far. And then I'm going to do the same in here and make sure my calendar is updated. Looks like I might have a few things I think everything is here. And then I'm going to set up my trackers for August, and then I will put September in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on a combination of music and voiceover and get that part done. So I sped this up pretty fast because this plan with me took a really long time to film, and my plan with me is due, and that's something I talk about in my upcoming 2027 lineup planner setup because I am looking for a way to kind of simplify this process. I love setting up my planners and journals for the new month, but I have a lot of steps, and you see that in this video that it really does take me a long time to set these up, and I am trying to simplify that going into 2027. Back to what I'm doing here, I'm setting up September in my take a note, and I do a month in advance because I do like to have that for future planning. So during the month of August, I'm going to be focusing on looking at what my September is going to look like, what appointments do I need to schedule, what appointments do I have coming up, and I'm working on setting that up. I stamped out the title September, and I use that alpha stamp set that is from the Coffee Monster Co. She re-releases this every so often, so if you are looking for this stamp set, I highly recommend following the Coffee Monster Co. and waiting for her to have a stamp release. She does not keep these in stock, but I have seen it be re-released a couple of times, and it is my absolute favorite alpha stamp set. Then I'm setting up my calendar, and I have my everyday carry up in the right-hand corner of the screen there to use as a reference. I am using the gray mild liner to mark the days that I am out of the office, and then I used this darker blue one to mark a special work commitment. So what I do is in the very bottom row of boxes, I will mark my work schedule. I work full-time Monday through Friday, And so I typically know that I'm working those days, but I will put a gray line there if something is different, usually if I'm out. And I will also write in if I'm working from home, just so I have that for reference. And then the second row across the bottom is where I put anything where I'm in a different location. So often that's travel. I don't have any travel in September, but I do have a focus group at work, which requires me to go to a different office location that's still in my region. So I have that where I'm marking that down below. I also added in the holidays. I have the standard holidays, the American holidays, and the stationary holidays. I don't love that Diary Day and the first day of autumn are the same day because it kind of takes up the entire box, but I do want to have both of those on here, so I did include them. I also am writing in other appointments. I marked my paydays off with the little dollar stickers, and I'm just going through these stickers. I like to use stickers to identify appointments and things. I'm looking at August to make sure I have everything filled out on there and there aren't any other stickers or anything I want to add before I finish up laying out my calendar for September. My calendars do have a lot of blank space on them, and that is because I don't want to be fully booked. I like a lot of downtime. I am an introvert. I like being at home. I spend a lot of that time crafting and relaxing and doing home projects, and I don't put that stuff on my calendar. I also, like I said, work full time. And so during the week when I have those blank days on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, that's just me being at work all day. I don't need to write that into my calendar. Now I'm working on finishing up the August spread. So on the left-hand side here, I have a sidebar where I list out all of my routine cleaning. And this is just cleaning around the house. I like to use the zig dot marker to create a bullet point for each of these items. And then when I complete a task, I will write the date on that zig dot bullet point. You see those are the dots right there. And that's where I will put if I have done it. These are all my routine cleaning tasks, which I don't do every single month, but I like to try to aim to do them every month. Some of them I think I do maybe every other month or just depending on when I get to it. Other ones I think I do more than once a month for sure, but I just want to identify that I've done it at least once during the month because some of those things I just don't want to fall behind on. At the bottom, I added another sticky note for August tasks. I guess not sticky note, label. And I listed out some of the long-term cleaning that I want to accomplish during the month of August. And these are things that I do maybe once annually. And I just am adding a list on there. You can see I have a list in July as well that I think I flipped to it quickly. And some of those will get migrated to August if I don't complete them by the end of July. Across the bottom of the page, I have the coordinating washi strips, and I like to add these just for a little extra decor across the bottom. I really, really love the September theme, which is like this bookish theme. And actually, there's a book washi tape I purchased that is coordinating with this, so maybe I will add that on there as well. And that is going to wrap up my take a note setup. I'm now moving on to my everyday carry, and essentially what I have to do in here is set up my weekly spreads. My monthlies, I set up the entire year in advance because I do use this for future planning, but the weeklies, because this is undated, I have to set up these weekly spreads, and this is one of the steps I'm going to try to eliminate in my 2027 lineup. I did talk about eliminating this book altogether, and I'm thinking about that, but regardless, whatever I do, I will get a dated book if I get anything so that I don't have to do this. I don't love when I write them in, and I really wanted to do something different this month, and I actually really love how these come out, but what I'm doing is I'm adding these little days of the week stickers across the bottom, and those are from Sterling Ink. And then I'm going to use stamps to add the numbers and the month on here. Okay, I'm wrapping up my everyday carry, and you can see this is just very time consuming. I really like how these came out, but this is something I want to avoid in the future. And if you are looking for a lineup that is more low maintenance, I think this is why a lot of people move from bullet journaling, which is something I used to do in the past as well, is it's just so much work to set everything up. Now I'm moving on to my craft planner, and I'm going to set up my August craft plans and trackers. This month I decided to just use a mild liner to set this up, and I am just going to write on or stamp on there very simply small words to do my titles, and then I'm going to hand write all of the boxes. I have in the past stamped everything on the entire spread, and that is, again, very time consuming. Unfortunately, this is a spread that I'm going to have to always set up myself because it is so specific to me. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I am doing my project goals for the month, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to do my product tracking, and I'll talk you through both of these. So first for the project goals, my first project, the one I'm going to put at the top, is Project Life, and that is because I prioritized this scrapbook project pretty regularly. If you follow me here or on Instagram or both, you know that I am fairly consistent with my Project Life, and the reality is that is because I really prioritize that project. If I have time to scrapbook, I almost always am going to be reaching for Project Life before anything else. I like to stay up to date with that project, and that is because I really just love having that record of my life in that format. I'm flipping back and forth with my Project Life tracker to see what my specific weeks are and what I'm going to be working on during this month. I also have my planned content calendar off camera, and that gives me an idea of what I want to accomplish during the month so that I have it to share on YouTube during the month of August. So I wanted to accomplish quite a few spreads of Project Life. I want to be fully caught up towards the end of August. I am slightly behind as of filming this, but now that I'm doing the voiceover, I did catch up a little bit. I always fall a little behind when I travel, and then I just recently got caught up again after my most recent vacation that was in June. And then I do my creative teams. I'm actually leaning towards taking those off of here because I do those kind of automatically, and I don't really use this tracker for them. I tend to always end up checking them off as I'm doing my planning for the next month because I kind of forget to come back and check them off. So I might stop putting those on here in the future, even though they are obviously something that takes my time and focus. Then for projects, the other thing I really want to focus on this month is my Pacific Northwest album. If you missed it, I shared the first 2 videos so far of that album setup. I shared my plan and then starting to actually put the album together, including photo editing and all of that. And I do hope to finish that. Maybe not completely finish it, but make a lot of progress during the month of August. And I plan to share the next installment of that series this month. It will probably be later in the month because I do have quite a few things with planner season coming up to share. But for now, my plan is that I will get another installment of that later this month in August. Then, of course, I did my 2027 lineup, setting up my craft planner and doing my 2026 check-in and my lineup plans. Obviously, that is going to be a big focus during the month of August, so stay tuned for that. As always, I created a header to list out all of the projects that I complete, and that is both just to see a record of everything I've done and for my product tracking so that I know that I've put in my product tracker. So here you can see me drawing out my product trackers, and I'm going to talk through this a little bit because this is something that if you are new to me is probably a little different. I don't know that I've seen many other people or anyone else doing something like this, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm tracking all of the craft products that are coming into my home and all of the products that are going out. And I do this to keep a handle on my stash and my purchasing because I don't want to be purchasing more supplies than I am using, which I know is a trap that a lot of people fall into in this hobby and one that I have fallen into myself in the past. So how I do this, I started this probably at least 10 years ago with Project Life cards. And that is definitely my top tracker and the one I have done the longest. And slowly I've added additional trackers throughout the year. So I also track embellishments, paper, stamps, my stamp catalog system, craft plans, and kits. And essentially what I do is for new products, I will tally them in. And then when products leave, either because I use them, I donate them, or I trash them, I will tally them out. And that way I can see how much my stash has grown throughout the year. I also have different boxes. You can see I have multiple boxes for each section, and that's because I divide them by manufacturer, because I can see if I have I'm using a lot of Project Life cards, but they're all Allie Edwards brand, then I know that I need to focus my purchasing only on that. So my first two columns are Allie Edwards and Cocoa Daisy, because those are the two brands that I use the most. And then in embellishments, I also have the Coffee Monster Co. because I get a lot from there. So for embellishments, I track things like die cuts, sticker sheets, washi tape rolls, and I definitely have a problem with embellishments. That's the one I struggle with the most, but I do have that there to see kind of how I'm doing. And it definitely helps me slow my purchasing or think twice before buying stuff. Especially one of the things that really stopped me from doing is the grab bag products, because I used to always get all those sale grab bags, and I don't do that anymore because I know it's just going to add a bunch to my stash and I'm not going to use them. So that's essentially what I'm doing for my product tracking. Now I've moved on to the calendar, which again, here's another thing I have to set up. So in 2027, I'm hoping for dated planners because I really don't want to be doing this every month. Although I do love how these come out. I think these are maybe the bullet journal ones from the Coffee Monster Co. But this is how I set up my monthly calendar in here. And essentially what I do on this calendar is I just add in what my actual social media shows. So I have a calendar here where I'm going to write in all my Instagram posts and my YouTube videos just to keep track of what I have shared. I have a calendar that I keep on my desk with sticky notes of my plan, and it only goes in here once it's actually posted or shared. Again, I'm using that same stamp to stamp August on there, and then I'm just going to wrap this one up and move on to the next one. Okay, so it's time to do my goal setting. And so I need to set up this page and plan out my goals. So I just did a little bit of a check-in with July, and July's not yet over. It has not gone the best on my goals. I haven't been feeling great. I did some medication issues. So I was switching my meds and stuff. So I have had issues with that, but I have been doing some yoga, not as much as I'd like. So I'm definitely going to focus on that again. And I have been doing really well with my everyday journaling. I'm not going to check it off because the month's not over, but I haven't really focused on these. So I need to work on that. And I have stationary fast is coming up at the end of the month, which is a big thing. I've been doing okay with my cleaning and stuff, and the half bath redo. We did the woodwork, which is all that was really going to happen in July. When I set my goals, I wasn't sure of the timing, but we're not going to finish everything through till September. And then I started my travel album. I haven't finished it, and I won't finish it in July. So I'm going to set these goals. I think I'm going to do a little bit of music, and then I will pop on and off with talking through as I work on this. Okay, so let's talk through what I want to work on in August. And I actually I'm gonna pull over my August calendar here because I do put some goals up here just to have a focus during the month. And I'm gonna kind of transfer that over here. So we're also gonna look at July. So I still have progress to do in the half bath. Health, I don't know. Paint trim. Routine cleaning. Okay, so for the half bath redo, we got the woodwork done in July, and I shared that over on Instagram. If you are new here, I do share a lot in my stories. And we got woodwork done, and then we are going to paint it ourselves during the month of August. And then in September, we are getting some wallpaper put in. So we need to paint the trim. And then for my routine cleaning and maintenance, I need to catch up my cleaning, and I want to do a maintenance review for my house. Just kind of go through, make sure I'm taking care of everything I need to take care of, and kind of create a schedule for that. And then I want to do some deep cleaning. So I'm just going to put deep clean progress because I do have separate lists for that. I think that's it in terms of home projects for the month of August. And then, so let's see, for crafts, let's do that one next. I want to finish my travel album. Okay, so these are the same from July. I have actually been doing pretty well on this, but I want to continue focusing on that in August. And that's just having my creative content that I share on Instagram and YouTube kind of done in advance rather than kind of scrambling last minute to get things put together. And then, well, partially, a lot of that is because I do have travel coming up. So I want to make sure that I am prepped and everything is nice and settled and prepared before I go away for a large vacation this fall. And then my practices and my scrapbook pages, I want to focus on doing more of my traditional scrapbook pages in my 2026 albums and just kind of filling in more gaps. And then my practices are like my stamp organization and my common placing and that type of stuff. I just have kind of fallen off a lot of those and really just focused on like my daily journaling and my project life. So I really want to get back into those other things. Okay, for fun in August, I want to practice just giving myself Okay, so I want to give myself some space for some spontaneous fun. So not overbook. I want to have a date night, and then I want to do something with Summer. My daughter, she's an adult, a young adult that doesn't live at home but lives in the area. And I would like to make time to plan kind of a fun activity together rather than a lot of times we end up, she either just comes over for dinner or we're together doing like tasks that need to get taken care of. So I want to do something that's more fun. Then let's see, health. So health has really struggled this month and I'm trying to get that back on track just because I had some medication issues. So let's see, we want to do yoga 15 times again. I'm going to try that goal because it did not work out well this month. There we go. And then I do want to play pickleball. And I want to focus on rest. And I'm gonna just leave space here because I can fill that in. I want to play pickleball. And then for myself, I am still going to continue journaling every day, which is just a goal every single month this year, really, or always. And I'm going to start my 2027 plans and just kind of figuring out what my goals are going to be in 2027. I'm not yet doing that, setting those goals or setting that up, but I'm starting to prep for my 2027 lineup and just think ahead to what is going on in 2027. So I'm just going to try to like let that ruminate a bit this month. And I think that that's it for my goal setting. Then the last thing I need to do in here in my monthly setup here is my vision board. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of this stuff away and I'm going to grab my magazines and switch to music and voiceover and get my vision board put together for the month of August. So the first part of doing my vision board is working through cutting up magazines, and you can see I also have some catalogs, and I just go through a few every time when I'm going to create a vision board, and I'm going through and cutting out pieces for a variety of things. So am of course cutting things out from my vision board. So when I'm looking for things from my vision board, I primarily am doing words and phrases, and that pile towards the left of the screen are the things that I have picked out to go on my August vision board so far. This doesn't mean that I'm definitely going to use all of these on my vision board, but I at least want to have them to pull from when putting that vision board together. The pile on the right-hand side are words that I wanted to cut out to put into my stash of magazine cutouts, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go on my August vision board. In fact, they're not going to be on my August vision board because they're not sentiments that I really want for August. For example, I have that spring adventures one. It is not springtime in August, so I'm not focused on that, but that is a sentiment that I want to have in my stash because I will use it at some point. And I don't want to keep so many magazines, and I don't want to have to flip through the same magazines over and over again. I tend to flip through most magazines twice because I sometimes skip things when I'm flipping through because either I don't notice it or I'm not feeling it at the moment, and then in the future I am interested in it. So I usually do 2 flip throughs per magazine. But some of them, like the LL Bean catalog, I flip through it once and then I just recycle whatever's left. I'm also cutting out alphas. So you can see here I have my alpha organizer tray, and I like to have a bunch of alphabets cut up that I can use for titles. I'm going to use these on my vision board and my monthly calendar, but I use them in other ways as well. So I am just constantly looking for words and alphas that I like that are around the same size that I can put in that book or in that tray so that I can use for when I want to write out words in my journal. I have a couple here that I also cut out. So I'm just looking for words or like letters that I like the font, I like the colors, I like the size. They're easy to cut apart. So often I don't do something that is like a script font because you can't cut those letters apart very well. And also I look for letters that are harder to find, like J's are very hard to find, but something that I use frequently. I also am looking for images. So I choose full page images that can be backgrounds for vision boards. I also sometimes will put those in on blank daily pages when I need to fill a gap in my journal. I also will get smaller images that I can put on my monthly calendar or add in on my daily pages. I often like to add in magazine cutouts in my journal for a variety of reasons. I do it often on days where I haven't filled the full page and I want to fill in more of the space quickly, because I don't have the time or the energy or anything to journal about for the full page. So magazine clippings are a great way to fill those extra spots because they are unique. So often they are more unique than putting, like journaling supplies that were made for that. It's more something I, found. And they also are super thin. So they are great for layering in journals when you don't want to get too much bulk. I also am going to put a lot of images in like my monthly calendar and stuff like that. So I am cutting those out for those things as well. Recently, I was chatting with a friend on interior design stuff because I often have, as you saw earlier in this video, we've been working on some stuff in our house and on designing. And she was asking, do I use magazines to cut out images for inspiration for that? And I really didn't. And I realized I really should be doing that. I often use Pinterest for that. I think because magazines, it's harder to find something that is actually going to be the style I want for my home. But I figured I could start keeping some magazines specifically for that purpose, or saving images that are good inspiration for my decor that I want for my house, and maybe we'll use that in some other spreads in the future. So that's just something else I thought of while I was working on flipping through the spreads for this month. So this here is a free magazine I picked up. It's like a Visit Michigan, I think, and I think I got it when I was in Montana. I'm not sure why they had that there, but they did. And it's a great one for having a lot of things to cut out, and it's a great free magazine. So anytime I can find a free magazine, I'm always going to grab it. So I also really liked this like huge word sun here, and some of the like just images were super beautiful in this one. And it's surprising when you get a free one and it's just so nice. I liked the letters for that time right there. So I'm going to cut those out as well. Or actually, no, I just like the word time. I liked the letters as well. But anyways, so I just go ahead and flip through magazines until I feel like I've had enough of flipping through magazines. And then I'm going to start working on my vision board. And there really is no set answer as far as how much time am I getting to spend flipping through magazines. At the point where I'm doing this, I was still rewatching Grey's Anatomy, and I think I was already on maybe season 21 or 22, so towards the end of the show, and I'm just watching an episode and flipping through magazines. It's a nice, relaxing way to spend a weekend afternoon. So when I finally decide I'm ready to start working on my actual vision board, I start with the base. So I pulled over my stack of magazine images, full page images that could be backgrounds for my spread. And I'm just sorting through them. You could see there are a couple that I added today from flipping through today. And then some of these have been in my stack for a while. Some of them are definitely out of season right now. There's a lot of winter ones that I'm obviously not going to use for August. And there are other ones that would work, but I'm just choosing not to use them just because they're not what I'm feeling at this moment. And I'm just going through and making a stack on the left of ones that I'm considering using. This year for my vision boards, I am doing a 2-page spread, which means I get 2 background images, which is a great way to put a dent in this stack that I have. And it's also a great way for me to just have more fun with the spread. That said, it does take much longer to make a 2-page spread than a 1-page spread. So in 2020, 7, I might go back to the single page spread. It also depends on what book I end up using. What I'm considering right now is putting me back on a single page spread, which I'm okay with because of the saved time, but I also do really like having this full page spread. So just something to consider if you want to do your own vision boards. I am now going to go through the stack and decide which 2 I want to use to put side by side. I really liked that picnic one, so I wanted to use that one, and then I'm looking to see what else I have, and there's this one of these people at the beach, and I really, really love this one. It's just so much joy and fun. And I have no plans to go to the beach in August, but it's still very summery. So I do decide to go with these 2. And then I'm going to crop them down and put them in my journal. So the first step is to crop them to the right size to fit in the journal. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to put this picnic basket one, which I like all of the greens. I like that it looks relaxing. I like that it's outdoors. It's just a perfect vibe for what I'm going for this month. And then the one that I'm going to put on the right-hand side are these people at the beach, which it's super summery, which I love. And it just looks like so much joy. And I just really love this image. So this is one that I had pulled today from a magazine, and then I'm automatically just using it right away. So again, I'm cropping it to size to fit in here. I don't want to put too much on top of this page because I am wanting to still see these people and the sunburst and, all of the joy from this image. And that's something to keep in mind when creating your vision board, what you want your background to be, because you do want to have space to build a vision board on top of it. So if there's a lot going on in the image, you're not going to be able to have that much space. This picnic basket one here, I have all the space at the top that I can fill. And then the one of the people in the beach, I can put some on the borders around like the top of the sky and the sand in the bottom. So just things to keep in mind when building a vision board. When doing a 2-page vision board, that definitely gives me more space to have more of the images showing, which you'll see. I definitely play with that more this month than I have in previous months. I always add some washi tape along the edge here, because if you adhere magazines or anything towards the center crease of your book, and when you close the book, it might fold over and kind of bunch up, and it's going to add a ton of bulk, and it's just not going to turn smoothly. So I like to add some washi tape just to make sure it's super adhered down towards the edge there. And this month I decided to go with this green grid washi. I usually use white, but I really liked the green that I had in the background of the image on the left-hand side, so I wanted to kind of stick with that. Next, I'm working on writing out the titles of the month. So I'm going to write the word August twice. I'm going to do once for my vision board and once for my monthly calendar, which I'm also going to set up at this point in time in this video. So I think I end up doing that at the very end, but you will see that in this video as well, setting up that monthly calendar. So I'm just looking through here for the letters that I need to write out August, and I'm just trying to balance size and color and shape so that I like the way that they look together. So you can see how I'm kind of messing around with that on my desk. The U and the G I have in the 2 different words are clearly from the same set. I don't want to use more than one from the same set on the same word because that's too obvious to me. You definitely could, but for my purposes, I really like when they're all different. But putting one that I really like on both words is something that I do pretty frequently because it's just one that I'm like enjoying pulling from. For the word for August that I'm going to put on my vision board, I'm trying to add more greens and yellows. I do end up going with one red letter. I actually swap out. I think I do stick with that G that's right there. But the rest of the letters are like the greens and blues, which I really like because it's pairing with the green from that background. For the August that's going on my calendar, I added in a purple and a brown, and it doesn't really matter because there are no other colors on that spread so far. I'm going to work on adding these into my album here. To add it onto my vision board, I'm going to add it on the sky of this side here where they're on the beach. And I'm going to add some white washi. So I'm just kind of eyeballing how much I want as a base for this word. You definitely could adhere this directly onto your image, but I like adding some sort of base because I feel like it helps it stand out and make it more of a title for the spread, even though it's not always at the very top. It's usually not. It's usually somewhere towards the center of the page, but it makes it stand out and pop a bit more than all of the other words that I'm going to add onto this vision board, so that you know that that is the title. There does end up being a little bit extra white towards the right-hand side there, which I'm okay with. I could add a sticker there. At this point, I haven't. I might still actually go back and do that. So you will see on Instagram when you see my vision board shared over there, whether or not I actually added in anything else on that spot. I flipped quickly over to my calendar and I'm just adding these on here to have them off my desk. And then I'm going to come back and set up this calendar towards the end of this video. I'm going to move back to my vision board and I will work on adding in all of my words and phrases that I want to have on this vision board. I'm going to start by going through all of the words and phrases that I have here on my desk and just adhering them down. I'm thinking about color and balance when I'm adding them on here. When I'm adding a longer word or phrase, I like to split it into strips so that you can kind of see through it as opposed to it being just a large block of text. And you'll see me doing that as I work on this. And I'm trimming some of these just to be a little bit better cut and clean lines to have on here. You can see just how I'm balancing the different colors. I'm not putting two black background ones or two blue background ones next to each other. I'm going to add this white phrase here. So again, I'm going to cut this into thin strips. And I really have been enjoying adding these longer phrases. Last month, I talked about how to keep the glue off of my desk. And really the best way is just to use some scratch paper. So that's what I'm doing here, because having the strips of adhesive that gets on my desk, it's such a pain to clean it off. And when you're working with thin magazine, it could easily stick to something that's on your desk and it will tear. And that has happened to me before. And sometimes I have to scrap the piece. Other times I can kind of like get it to work, but sometimes I do have to scrap it. So I'm just trying to be very careful and not get random adhesive in random spots. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more music on as I finish adhering everything down, and then I'll move on to the calendar. I also want to point out that as I'm working on this, you could see once I worked through the pieces that I had cut out today, I brought over my tray and everything from my desk. And I'm also going through and just kind of organizing things. I like to go through and just kind of clean out my tray and remind myself of what I have there at the end of each month while I'm setting up this in this video so that I have that fresh on my desk for using in my journal spreads. Now I'm going to work on this calendar. So to do the calendar, I do need to add the days of the week, and I have most of these are from Cocoa Daisy, and I decided to use just this plain black one here so I could use up this sheet. It worked perfectly fine. This was a super cute one. Maybe it wasn't the best summery themed one, but I just wanted to use up this sheet. It's always so rewarding to be able to throw away a sticker sheet like that. And I get to mark it out as a completed sticker sheet in my product tracking. Then I'm going to use these stamps. These are like plastic stamps that I picked up on Amazon. And I just use these to add the dates in. I'm just going to stamp the numbers on here. And these really, for this monthly in my journal here, this is where I just kind of play with collage and products and stickers and just have fun with it. So the dates are not super important. I do try to match my icons to something that happened on the day, but a lot of times they overlap. And depending on the month, sometimes I'll do like one icon per day. Other months I will do multiple icons per day and just kind of collage all over the place. So the dates are just kind of there as a base, but sometimes they'll get covered up. It's not that important. So I'm okay with this one being one that I'm setting up myself. Although, like I've said earlier in this video, again, having these undated books has really added a lot of time to my setup. And that's something I'm definitely going to try to avoid next year. I do really like how these come together though. And I'm just going to finish this up and then I'll wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.